Almost time. Don't know the seconds, but it. Okay, thank you to all the candidates to participating in our village's first ever Meet the Candidate event. The 5 candidates are from left to right: Anthony Savage, Becky Seisky, Rob Pasco, Jeannie Mashari, and Mark Lashinsky. We have prepared 12 questions for you, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each. Please remember, this is not a debate. It's an opportunity for you to briefly share your positions and ideas with the community.
If you're ready, first question. What qualifications, experiences, or perspectives do you bring that make you a strong candidate for our village council? Becky, can you answer first?
I have a background, I have a bachelor's in accounting, which in my last 3 years on council has helped me with the auditing of the books, which I know is something important to our residents. We check to make sure everything's correct. I have a love for the community. I've been living in the village for 14 years, so I wanted to continue to remain the small village that we are, but yet make sure all our needs are met. So that, and I also serve in a school, so I am well vested in the community.
Mark?
Yeah. Can you repeat the question? Or did you,
Oh, no, I can.
okay.
What qualifications, experiences, or perspectives do you bring that make you a strong candidate for our village council?
My name is Mark Shinsky. I grew up in this town. I've lived in this town for 41 years, attended South Amherst Elementary, South Amherst Middle, and Fairlands High School. In my college years in 04 to 06, I read water meters in this town. So, and then in, I believe it was 2020 to 2022, I was on EPA. So I understand the water department fairly well. My dad being mayor for 2 terms, he called me up here. I've been attending meetings since probably 2010. Know how the mechanics of this village work. So I'll leave it at that with 6 seconds to spare.
Thank you. Jeannie?
My name is Jean Mashari. I've been resident for 36 years. I have a degree in banking and finance and 30 years in banking work. I have worked for the village in every capacity in the administration side, in the water department, cemetery department, fiscal, and that's been since 2010 forward. I retired, and shortly after I retired, I ran for council and served for this term. And during that time, I worked on several big projects, getting the treatment plant torn down, getting a grant for it to get torn down. I worked on several loans for the village and a lot of different projects. And I've also served on small community programs that they have here in the village. So I feel like my experience and the direction that I think the village needs to go in, that I will be an asset if residents.
Rob?
I am Rob Pasco, and I've been the executive director of a nonprofit for over 10 years. And through that, I've learned about grant funding and how to make do with limited funds and try to accomplish big projects. As a replacement for Councilmember Sis on the Village Council, I've spent the last 2 years as chairman of the Ordinance Committee, member of the Safety Committee, and Community and Economic Development Committees. And I've represented the Village of South Amherst in the Sandstone Joint Ambulance District. So I've got a good understanding of some ways to help bring ideas to the fire department to generate funds.
Thank you. Anthony?
Good evening. My name is Anthony Savage. I appreciate the question. I believe that I'm a good candidate for South Amherst Village Council because I have a long time. I have a lot of experience over a long time, about 15 years serving in different community organizations, different boards, nonprofits. Currently serving, for example, here on the planning commission and the audit committee. And then around the county, on the board of Lorraine County Farm Bureau, I have a strong passion for helping communities, organizations thrive, look at innovative solutions to problems. I'm all about building better communication and transparency. I think that that's important. I've done that in every organization that I've been a part of, helping different organizations and businesses grow and streamline the processes. Not only that, I'm a man of faith. I'm a husband, I'm a neighbor, I'm a community member here in South Amherst, and I really want to see South Amherst thrive. I want to help keep South Amherst, South Amherst.
Okay.
Thank you.
Question number 2. What are your top 3 priorities for improving the quality of life in our village? Anthony.
My top priorities, if elected, are going to center around infrastructure, roads, water systems, basic services that we need, not just finding solutions, but smart planning, identifying grants, communicating timelines to get projects accomplished and funded clearly so that there's no miscommunication. I also want to continue helping our community budget strongly. I want to continue to serve in the audit committee and have any other type of oversight over how our tax dollars are spent. I think that's super important. And I want to continue to help drive small business growth here in the community. I want it to be growth that matches the character and the charm of South Amherst and not other out-of-town special interest groups.
Okay, Jeannie.
Okay, my 3 priorities will be safety for the village under the police and fire department to make sure that they're fully staffed and trained and they have all the equipment that they need to do their jobs safely and proficiently. I'm also all for keeping South Amherst, the community that the strategic planning committee designed and said they wanted to see us stay as, which is a small rural community with some small development, but to keep out the big growth, big box companies. So it's important that we all get along and hopefully help each other as neighbors. And I think that if we continue to try to keep it small that way, we'll be able to do that. But we also have problems with our infrastructure, and we have had to recover from significant financial situations. And
Okay.
we've been prudent about doing that.
Thank you. Okay, Rob.
But first and foremost, safety is high on my list, making sure both fire and police departments have the tools and the resources and the staffing to do their job to the best of their abilities and to keep South Amherst very safe. Number 2 is monitor development. Well, we don't have much of a tax base. We'd like to see some kind of businesses come through here, but we want to make sure that it keeps up with the values, the small town charm that South Amherst is. And thirdly is infrastructure, maintaining the roads, waterways, and everything, working at their best and being top notch for the small village.
Okay, thank you. And then Mark.
Sure. Probably my number 1 priority would be start working on and looking into our water system, come up with a plan to start replacing water mains, fixing them to where they're up to date. I know a lot of them are very old. That'd be number 1. Number 2, I attended a meeting roughly a month ago here with our police department, and I believe more funding towards them, possibly more officers if needed to increase safety in the village. And probably number 3 would be financially looking through financial, see if we can get more input from the state or looking at our financials and making sure we're financially stable and limiting any waste we have.
Okay, thank you. Becky.
Yes, of the 3 things I would be looking at would be One would be on our water lines, continue looking for any help we can get to help replace those lines with, money from the state or anywhere we can grants to replace those lines. Another thing would be to continue to listen to our residents. I think that's something in council we've been doing is being more open to listen to our residents and what their needs are and what their, complaints and their issues are in a village. Also, another thing would be to help with, I'd like to start something to try to help with cleaning up yards and properties that are around here with some volunteer groups. To help get it cleaned up so that our town looks a little bit nicer. We have a lot of people that pass through here and I know I get a lot of complaints myself about the village and the conditions. So I'd like to try to start working with some groups to maybe help some of our residents who cannot financially afford to pay somebody or they're physically not able to take care of their yards.
Thank you. Third question. Given that in Ohio, a statutory village council's primary role is legislative, which consists of setting local policy, managing village finances, and passing laws, how do you see your role in ensuring the council stays within its legislative boundaries and avoids overstepping into administrative functions? Becky.
Continue to do our research on Ohio revised code on anything that we're looking at instead of just jumping to make a decision, make sure that we do our full research on it, whatever the item may be, so that we're not, overstepping.
Rob?
So, along with following the Ohio Revised Code, and other policies, I would like to come up with ways that benefit the community, collaborative thinking. I don't want it to come off as that it's just council setting the policy. I would like to have more community involvement in their ideas and suggestions as how they would like policies to be set.
Mark?
I'm going along with both Rob and Becky is look at Ohio Revised Code, go through that, make sure that we're not going overboard on that, make sure that village residents approve of what we're doing with that. And also just make sure our language is as clear as possible.
Thank you. Anthony?
When it comes to setting policy and ordinances legislation for the village, I think it needs to always start with open conversations with people in the community. The other day I held a coffee with a candidate event here in town, and it was super important for me to understand what the concerns are from people, to take notes, to see how they'd like us to respond. And I plan to do that if elected. I'm going to continue to have regular office hours, I guess you'd call it, with the community and invite people to come here or be in another location to see, what they'd like to see change, what they'd like to see happen here in town. And then I will, when it comes to developing the policy and ordinance, I will do independent research along with the rest of the council and discuss it with our law director to make sure that what we're going to do is in line with what Ohio allows us to do. We don't want to overstep, but we also want to maximize every opportunity for this village that we can.
And Jeannie?
Well, the purpose of council is to represent the village residents. And sometimes, or in the past, regulations have been written according to what that particular council wanted. I don't know that they really went out to communicate with the residents, and we all seem to be on the same page that that's an important and critical role in writing rules and legislation that govern the village residents. We all are, our home is our castle. And we want to live the way we want to live. We want to have the peace and quiet and respect of our neighbors. And we have to somehow find a way to encourage residents to participate more, to actually learn how to have conversation, share their thoughts, and realize that council is the final say and that we have to legislate. And some may not like the answer, but we've done our thorough homework and we have good backing of why we made those kind of decisions. And that it's for the better interest of the
Okay.
whole community.
Thank you. Question number 4. With the village water system estimated to cost around 12 million to replace, what is your plan to fund and address this critical infrastructure need? Mark?
If I'm not mistaken, the user fee goes towards, repairs, upgrades, all that. I will do it in phases. And whichever lines we find it during winter months are breaking the most, because it seems to happen in segments from what I've seen. We start working on those segments or in phases, and of that, like one segment per year or so. And eventually we'll have a new water or a very tight water system.
Anthony?
Thank you for the question. The water system here in town is clearly the result of long before any of us were in the picture and the community of not planning properly for the future, not having the funds set aside, and not having the right investments in place to replace our age system when it comes time for that. And it's past time right now. I don't think user fees are going to be sustainable to solve that on its own. I mean, we have extremely high expenses when it comes to just repairing our water main breaks that are hanging overall. So we need to solve this, and it needs to happen as fast as possible. We need to look for grants. There are different grants through the EPA. There's grants that we can look at in other areas as well as a solution for a lot of this funding. But we also need to coordinate with our legislature at the state level and at the national level. We need to see if there's funding out there or programs that we can tap into. No pun intended.
Okay, Becky?
As they continue, we've had, when in regard to our water lines with our service workers, we've had made great strides in the years that I've been on council with the maintenance of them and the decrease in water loss. So with that continuing with our service workers, possibly, I know the user fee only covers a little bit of it, but maybe we could work on trying to continue replacing sections that are having a lot of breaks. And then also on another level, continue searching through the state and hope something changes with the state, that we can get some money or grant with anybody that would be willing to help us to start replacing these lines.
Okay, Rob?
The village has already put into place new software that is helping to identify these leaks and helping the village to be proactive in finding these before they become major issues. And I know the village is also pursuing using a drone to spot other areas of weakness and defects in the piping. And that's going to be a good start to get ahead of the game, but ultimately we do need to find creative funding ways to fund these projects to replace the entire system. I feel like that in the 5 years that I've lived in the village, the water situation has definitely been trending better. The 12 line breaks that happened in front of my house when I first moved into this community are no longer there. So I understand this peril, and it's ways that we need to work hard as a council to find a solution for.
Okay, and Jeannie?
So the current water system was installed in the 1940s, as well as the water tower was in 1942, I believe. And down through the years, they did not do proper planning. And so we're now dealing with what's left of the system. But at one point, the water system was in a financial situation where they had to increase the rates. And we held tight on doing what repairs we needed to do whenever water breaks. But we held tight, so now we're going to be in a position to really start doing small sections of the water line and get it replaced. I know there's a plan to replace hydrants, which I believe it's about 15,000 a hydrant, but that's very important to the water system and to the residents for their insurance. So again, it's for grants, it's for loans, but we'll be able to make loan payments with the user fee funds. So hopefully we'll be able to go forward.
Thank you.
Question number 5, there's been a lot of movement in the elimination of property taxes. Inside millage currently accounts for approximately 24% of the general fund for the village. If that funding source were eliminated, what steps would you take to balance the budget? Jeannie?
Well, those funds go into the general fund, which support the police and fire department. The other department, cemetery, has its own fund and it generates its own revenue. The street department has its own fund and generates its own revenue. So the areas that would be impacted would be park, would be the administration. And so I would think that we would just need to look at the books and do the same as we do in our home. We need to budget or cut back. We would have to look at reducing services possibly, or possibly look at passing levies.
Mark?
I agree with that. I believe the solution, unfortunately, if that were to happen, which I really hope it doesn't, that would have to cut back on services here in the village, unfortunately, for a little bit, and possibly put a income tax levy on, because I'm not sure if a bond or a certain levy would be, that could be added to the property tax would be then constitutional. So unfortunately, that's what would have to come to.
Becky?
As same as the others said, we'd have to take a look at the administration, every little expense that we have, that we pay out of the general fund, since that's where it would be affected the most. We know that the police do generate a little bit more, and with the tickets that they've gotten out and with mayor's court that's been established. But we just definitely have to take a look at cutting back where we can, cutting non-essential services that are affected by that. Also, I would say that we have to take a look down the road, maybe a year or two, and see how the economy is doing this before we make the decision to place a levy on the ballot, because it really does cost to put it on there. So we want to make sure that we feel like the economy is in a good enough shape that we have hopes of passing it.
Thank you. Anthony?
That's a really tough question, because I understand and respect and agree that we need reform when it comes to property taxes. There are so many people that are living on fixed incomes getting priced out of their house. So I totally understand, respect that, and know that we need to do something. Within the village, I think having only 24% of our funding come from that inside village, that we are already doing a good job when it comes to managing funds. But we will need to make strategic cuts. We will need to look at ways we can operate as an even more lean government than we already are. It will make sense to investigate a levy. I mean, that does make sense, as everyone else was stating. But I also think before we start reducing services, we can start trying to maybe recruit some volunteer corps to help pick up some of the slack in some areas where we will have to cut down on hours of staff. Those are some of the solutions I would propose.
Thank you.
And Rob?
There's not much different that can be said. It's a scary thought to think about that we would have to do that, especially since the village has been making such big strides over these last few years. I would really hate to see the wind be taken out of its sails, because services are cut and staff their hours and time are reduced or completely let go. It takes a village to make a village, so I hope it doesn't come to that.
Thank you.
Okay, question number 6. Do you support establishing full-time safety forces in the village? And if so, how would you propose funding them? Rob?
Yes, I would love to see full-time fire and police services. ambulance services, being on the safety committee and serving on the San Antonio Joint Ambulance District. This is topics of conversation that are discussed frequently. Outside of looking at grants and looking at different programs that are out there, we've been doing well in getting the equipment updated. Now I'd really like to focus on finding ways to find the finances to bring on these full-time services.
Okay. Becky?
Well, for the police department, I would say yes, full-time is definitely a need that residents are wanting. Full-time police presence, we had looked at that, and while I've been on council, that was something that was looked at one time as to what it would cost. It would cost obviously significant more to have a full-time officer, even if we just had just one full-time officer. We'd have to look for some funding somewhere. I know that, our police department, as well as the other departments, have done some streamlining to cut their cost in a way of for his training and that. So we just have to keep looking, see if we can find a way to fund them to get, more full-time officers.
Anthony?
I think it would be great if we had full-time emergency services, both police and fire, here in the village. I think it would be more practical to start with a phased approach, starting with whichever department has a greater need. Personally, I feel without consulting with everyone and with residents, that it would be the police department. But I think it would make sense to phase in, slowly increase hours. And through that process, you're going to have additional revenue generated through, them being on patrol out there in the community during more hours. They're going to generate more revenue through mayor's court. I think we can also investigate grants that can cover equipment and training, help us improve our infrastructure, both with the police department and the fire department. And I think we need to sit down and invite our county and our state legislators, here and meet with them to discuss other options when it comes to funding.
Okay, thank you. Jeannie?
I think we need to have a outside of the box approach to looking at how we can change things. We recently requested that the chief of police provide some information about increasing the police department to having one full-time person. We haven't seen that proposal yet, but with mayor's court, we generate income from traffic tickets, but there's other options out there that residents have suggested to us as far as having a traffic camera, which would free up the officers instead of them giving the tickets. And it could generate a significant amount of money. I'm not saying that that's for us, but that's one of the options that we could look at. And I think it's important that we have a full-time police officer on duty, especially on the weekends or at the times that the businesses at the west end of town are active.
Okay,
And
thank you. Okay, Mark?
So I do believe that we do need more police presence. I'm not sure. I'd have to do a little more research on police department, but if full-time officer would be available, then yes, if the chief would be okay with that. Funding it, that would have to probably be reappropriated probably from somewhere else, or possibly, again, maybe through levy for a vote on that.
Question number 7. Which existing village services do you regard as essential and believe should be preserved? Anthony, you'll be first.
I think that South Amherst has done an incredible job of eliminating the bloat when it comes to the services that we provide. But I would have to say that the big three would be the big three would be fire, the police department, and then the roads. I think that you can't function as a community like ours without investing in those three areas. We have to have safe roads to drive on. We have to have law enforcement officers to enforce the law. and to make sure that our streets are safe for, the community, for the children getting on and off the school bus. And we have to have a well-equipped fire department to serve the village and the surrounding area of their district.
Jeannie?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure can. Which existing village services do you regard as essential and believe should be preserved?
I certainly agree that the fire department serves the community well in our regions as well. And the police department, I mean, we could look at, do we really need a police department, and could we go with sheriff department? Save money, but I think that the residents would be very dissatisfied with that because of timing of responses. And so I think it's really important that we make sure that we have a police department that meets the needs of the community, whether it's more staff, they're gonna need another car pretty soon, different things like that. And another service is you have a water service that we provide. And we could say we're going to go out of the water business and figure out a way to have another company come in and supply the water. I don't see that happening, so I think it's important that we make the investment in
Rob?
I think, again, the big three are fire, police, and water. A community can't survive without all three. We need the police to keep us safe, whether it's keeping the speeding down, with or without the buses. I know speeding is a big issue in the village. We don't have the crime issues like other cities do, which is a good thing. And it's good that speeding is kind of the biggest police issue we have. And then again, firefighters need water. We need water to drink. So those three are really the three big services that really need focusing on.
Mark?
In order, I have four, which would be, number one would be police for safety of the residents, along with what Rob said with speeding and what little crime there would be in town or that sort of thing. Number two would be fire. We respond to other districts, so that is essential to our neighbors, not only in the village, but outside. Number three would be probably service, which is plowing our roads, mowing grass, making sure our cemetery is in good shape. Make sure we have good equipment. And number four would be water. Water is what we need to, we have make sure we have good drinking water that we get from rural water, and it is distributed correctly throughout town.
Thank you. Becky?
I would, as well as the other candidates, have a couple. I would say our police department is vital to, even though we may not have them 24/7, we do have them enough to help with some of the speeders that are coming through town. Another thing would be our fire department. I know that they just looked at, upgrading and with the purchase of the ambulance to help out, once they are able to get that up and running, as I see a lot of their calls are for that type of service. So we need to keep supporting them and what they're doing. I would say also too would be our streets. I mean, we've done a pretty good job. We have good workers now that are helping making sure they're maintained, the potholes are filled. And we just recently paved some streets that were in really bad shape that needed repaired, and hopefully we can do some more in the future. And also keeping those plowed good with our own plows.
Okay, the next question, Mark, you'll be first. How will you ensure financial transparency and prevent misuse of funds?
Through posting, which Laura, you do a good job posting the packets online. for residents, also looking through that and also through audits and through, I believe we have a financial committee.
All right, Anthony.
Can you restate the question for me, please?
Hold on, 'cause we'll restart. How will you ensure financial transparency and prevent misuse of funds?
I think it is key with the history of financial issues here in South Amherst that we continue to expand on what the audit committee does. I think we do a great job and I'm proud to serve on that committee. But I think that we can look even deeper when we're in those committee meetings, maybe have more frequent committee meetings. And also, I think we should engage more members of the community to get involved. That's going to allow us to be more transparent. I think if we are noticing any type of discrepancy, that we report it immediately, that we make sure that all of our finances are looked at by independent third-party auditors as well. We never can allow what happened in the past year to happen again. So any type of software tools that we might be able to look into implementing, possibly AI tools to protect and audit our finances, I think all of that would be helpful. We need to have a holistic approach.
Becky.
I would say with financial transparency, I currently have been on the audit committee for my time on council. We continuing to do that of auditing the books of every month. We usually meet every other month, but we do the books of every month. Any issues we've had have been immediately, reported and had full explanation. So that would help with anything of misuse. I know we have an excellent job. Michelle does an excellent job on our books. So that, and with the residents of just continuing to, let them know that when they come to meetings, that there is a certain way that, government accounting works. It's different than any other type of like business accounting. So when it comes to having money, just because you have it doesn't mean you can spend it on something else. So that's a big thing to, continue to educate the residents.
Jeannie.
Well, as being a fiscal officer previously, I had a clear understanding, I think, of what's needed. I would say that the audit committee does a good job, but I do believe that needs to extend more and to look at different things. And the philosophy is trust but verify. You always know what you're looking at, and if you don't understand, you ask questions and you do the paper trail. And I would encourage all council members to become much more familiar with the financial situation and the reports and ask questions. And even if you think you know what it is, you need to ask questions so that everybody gets a clear understanding. But it's critical, absolutely critical, that we watch and look at things. And Michelle does do a great job. She's in the process of training another clerk, and I'm sure that person's going to do a great job. But you never know what happens in a person's life that causes a change, and you trust, and then you find out there's a problem. So
Thank you. And Rob.
And pretty much to kind of build off of everything that everybody has said, we release the council packet for the public to read beforehand. If they ever have any questions, that I would love to sit and kind of answer their questions and field their questions about this. As council, we also have a duty to go through the books to verify monthly statements and checks and to sign off to verify that everything is going to what it said it's going for, and there is a paper trail.
Okay, next question. What is your stance on future development or expansion in the village? First will be Rob.
So definitely, like I said before, we don't have much of a tax base. So, but we also have the same problem, don't have much property to bring in big businesses. So we are kind of limited on what we can do. And just because someone has an idea in mind, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a good idea. I want the idea to benefit not just the people bringing in the business, but to benefit the residents. I don't want it to be a tax on our infrastructure. I don't want it to be taxing on our residents' quality of life. It has to be a good, sound, justifiable business or industry to come into this community.
Becky?
In regards to future development, you could say that, we do want to try to bring in more, but yeah, like you said, we are limited on land and what we have. We need to support the current businesses that we have and, try to support them in any way we can, whether it's just frequenting that business or it's supporting them in other issues that they're doing. I know that bringing in more people in expansion would be, that dreaded word of sewers and, to bring in certain businesses, and we just don't have that. I understand that, and I don't feel that the village is even at the point or the residents are taking on that financial burden of sewers right now. So it would just be continuing to work with who we have and make sure that what few businesses do come in, that there's something that's really gonna work well for the residents.
Anthony?
When it comes to my stance on current and future development near South Amherst, I think the planning commission, I think we've done a great job on that with identifying the types of things we want to see here. I think we want to focus on development that's going to help us keep our small town charm while giving us a pathway to modernize infrastructure. We need to encourage families to live here, to plant roots here. We need to support small business growth. We need to manage that growth. Yeah, we need to have progress that has a purpose and not pressure from outside sources to change what makes South Amherst so great. I think it comes down to thoughtful decision making. As a community, we need to get community input, see what they'd like to see, make changes that make sense for the folks that call this place home.
Jeannie?
I like the village as the village stands right now. It is a bedroom community, which I have spent 36 years of my life enjoying it. I would like to see some small changes with businesses that would service the residents. It is clear that we're not going to have any type of business that's going to bring huge traffic in here and change this community. We do have some property that would be available to some growth, and it's possible that that would generate income tax revenue or tax revenue from businesses. But it'll be a small, steady growth if it is.
Mark?
Yes, I would be in favor of economic growth through this or economic development in this village, provided they abide by our ordinances and our zoning laws. And hopefully, if that were to happen, they would bring in more revenue to this town, and all that would allow us to increase our service and safety forces.
Okay, question number 10. How do you plan to stay connected with residents and ensure their voices are heard? Jeannie?
I speak to a lot of village residents on a pretty regular basis, and I build a relationship with them, and they know if they have an issue that they can call me. I will try to resolve it for them. And some might say, well, that's not really your place, but I represent everybody here in the village. And so that's my task, to be kind to those people, try to help them, and try to see that they have a better life, that the problems get solved. So
Mark?
Village residents, I will more likely be out. I like being outdoors, walking my dogs. I have now a daughter who's in a stroller. Some of you before the meeting even discussed me pushing her around town now to put out signs. And I've talked to residents there. If elected, I'm sure my number and email address would be available and they could contact me and I'll do my best to address those concerns.
Becky,
I would continue as some of the others say, I am out and about. I always talk to a lot of my neighbors. They have brought issues to me that, I either explain to them what's going on. Like I said, we're back to that same understanding how, where the money comes from and how we can get grants. So trying to always keep the communication, explaining to them what it is. And there's also been a couple of times with residents, we've had issues where I have, brought those up at council, put those on the agenda so that we can discuss it. And if I'm elected, I would like the residents to still, they can still reach out to me either by phone, text, or by email and let me know. Because I know sometimes a lot of them, people cannot issues, but they can't attend the council meetings to ask their questions. And I would just encourage them that, if you have any, even with the upcoming meeting, reach out to myself. Phone numbers posted, emails posted. Reach out to one of the other council members, give us your questions that you have. So that if we're gonna be at the meeting, that we can ask the question and get your answer.
okay, thank you. Anthony,
I think it's so important to improve communication. I want to get more people in the community involved. I think the phrase "it takes a village," it can be used in a lot of ways, including with that. But personally, I will continue doing things like I did with my coffee with a candidate. If I'm elected, I'll continue to have coffee with a council member. Provide regular public question and answer times where they can meet with me here or somewhere else in the community. I'm willing to come over to your house and have a cup of coffee with you there if you want to discuss something. Just one-on-one, or if you want to meet at my house, or meet up here. I'm totally flexible. I really want to just hear what you have to say. I want to take notes, and then I want to take what we talked about and I want to present it to council, get it on the agenda so it can be talked about at the meeting on Monday nights. I want to have an open door policy and just be responsive to you.
okay, thank you. And Rob,
Currently, the village council gets a village email address and a phone number, and those are always open. I also have a candidate page on Facebook that I plan on continuing to use as a way to communicate with the village residents. Ultimately, I like face-to-face, or I like actual conversations, not communicating through Facebook resources. So I would use that Facebook page as just kind of a jump off point to find a way to have that face-to-face or a phone call conversation. And I'm always, like Mark, I'm always out walking with my little one, or we're out riding the bikes. I'm always willing to stop and talk and have a chat. I know we've had a few residents that come in and complain. They said they called everybody on council. I never got that call. I'm not a bad guy. You can talk to me. I've got good things to say.
Coming down the home stretch. Question number 11. How do your personal experiences, whether you were born and raised in the village or moved here later, shape your understanding of the community and your approach to serving on council? Becky, you'll take this first.
I would say my personal experiences, I was not born here in the village, but I was born in Elyria Township, which is at that time, it was a small community. They have grown since then. So I understand what that small feel is, to know your neighbors and know what's going on, know who's on charge of things. Also, right now, currently, like I said, I'm in the schools, like I'm subbing in Fireland schools about every day of the week. So I run into a lot of people who, live in the village, and they also either work at the school or they have kids at the school and that. So that, helps me get a better understanding, listening to them and what things they like, what they see, to continue.
Jeannie,
Well, with my experience down through the years, I've had a lot of different things happen in life that's taught me a lot of things. I've learned how to manage by myself. And while I worked at the bank for 30 years, I also served on many public boards, children's services, neighborhood house, Little Lighthouse Learning Center, just to name a few, battered women's shelter. And so all those community places that I served on boards, you learn how and what different experiences people have that they need to work their way through. So I feel I have a lot of good resources and a lot of good information to share with people when they need it, and I'm always there to support them. And I always follow up. They may come to me with a question or a problem, and I give them the answer, but I always follow up.
Anthony,
Can you, repeat the question?
sure. How do your personal experiences, whether you were born and raised in the village or moved here later, shape your understanding of the community and your approach to serving on council?
I appreciate you for saying that for me.
Sure.
I grew up in Henrietta Township, not too far from here. Went to Firelands, proud graduate of the class of 2009. Go Falcons. I've spent nearly my entire life in small communities. I've lived in the Oberlin area of Henrietta. I've lived in Wellington, and I've now lived here in South Amherst. And along the way, I've served on small community organizations and larger countywide organizations. Helping preserve the character of rural communities is something that I've done for a long time. Finding innovative solutions. I really feel like the totality of that country upbringing puts me in a great position to serve in this way here in South Amherst.
And Rob,
I feel like I was born to serve. I love serving my community. I love making my community a better place. Our organization, through various river cleanups, removed 110 tons of trash from the Black River. And through a conversation with a family member who talked about how out-of-towners got on trustees in his community and changed the rules to benefit themselves. I'm here to bring a fresh set of eyes to help solve the problems that South Amherst has, but keep it South Amherst. I don't want to change South Amherst. There's a reason I moved here, and our family loves it here. So that's.
thanks. Mark,
Yes, born and raised in the village, lived here for 41 years now. Been being on water board and also reading water meters. Going through town, I've met with residents, and I believe the key is to finding solutions to problems that the village account sees. Thank you.
Okay, final question here. For your closing statement, what motivated you to seek a seat on the village council, and how do you hope to make a lasting impact if elected? Jeannie?
Could you repeat that? Okay.
What motivated you to seek a seat on the village council, and how do you hope to make a lasting impact if elected?
I'm simply the type of person that's a doer. I am creative and think outside the box, and I will go look for a needle in a haystack to figure out a problem. Doesn't matter how long it takes me, I will keep at it until I figure it out. And there are many things here in the village that I've had to go through that process and do for the village. And so that's what makes me think the next 4 years I'll be bringing you more stuff.
Thank you. Okay, Rob?
I'm a put me in coach kind of guy. I want to make things happen. I don't want to be the one that complains about stuff and does absolutely nothing. I want to put me in the game and let's roll up our sleeves and find a way to make it done. And as a last thing, if there's something I can put my mark on or something that I can be proud of, then it would be to set the village up for success in the future. We can't look back and dwell on things that went wrong in the past or things we could have, should have done. Let's focus on what we can do and prepare for the long haul.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
Being on BPA and finding solutions to problems was my motivation. I believe on council, I can continue that and to find solutions to other issues. And lasting impression would probably be all those little small battles that come up and find solutions to them.
Okay, thank you. Becky?
I would say what motivated me was, less than 4 years ago, I was approached to ask to put my hat in for, to fill a seat that was being vacated. At the time, I thought, sure, why not? I attend council meetings a lot, always on the other side of the table there. My experience has taught me that I really enjoy doing things to make our town a better place. I had lived here once and then I moved back. So moved back because I like the town, I like the area I'm at. And for lasting impressions, I would just like to feel that maybe, that I was part of those that helped streamline, make sure our finances are streamlined and that we, never have history repeat itself again.
Thank you. And lastly, Anthony?
I want to thank everybody who's watching and who will watch at some point for taking their time to be part of this conversation, because it really just boils down to the future of the village of South Amherst. My campaign exists because I care deeply about this community and community service. I want to be the kind of person that will always get the facts, weigh the facts, and then act as part of a team and not for any type of personal agenda or selfish ambition. My campaign is about accessibility, transparency, and results. South Amherst deserves a council that's going to listen to its residents and work together with them to make smart, sustainable improvements, from safer roads to stronger water systems to increased fiscal responsibility and continued open dialogue. And I'll always make time to hear your ideas, your concerns, and I'll always work alongside you to find solutions where we can. I'd encourage you to visit my website, anthony.vote, to learn more about the campaign and to reach out to me with any
Okay,
questions.
thank you. Okay. Okay, want to thank again the participants tonight, Mark Lashinsky, Jeannie Mashari, Rob Costco, Becky Seisky, and Anthony Savage. That concludes the Meet the Candidates event, and we thank you for your participation. Election Day is November 4th, and a reminder to residents that you will vote in person at North Lake Missionary Baptist Church at 323 North Lake Street. Good night.